your decline is really worrisome.
Very worrisome. Now, can we just talk about the decline of the mafia in UP? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're live and on a day where 7 or 6 out of 7 of the top 10 trends on Twitter is about the death or the killing of this chap, Asad Ahmed, who's Atik Ahmed's son. He was, of course, famously caught on CCTV footage in February, killing Umesh Pal as well as the cop who was with him for security, caught live on camera. I mean, boldly jumped out of his car, shooting pure filmy mafia style. And today he met his maker. Basically, he was armed and trying to escape. He's been on the run ever since that crime in February, and today he was basically taken down by the STF in UP. And of course, the usual people are whining about it. In fact, the human rights, and you had Owaisi come forward and talk about how this was communal in nature. And of course, Rana Ayub has also tweeted about that. Usual suspects making it a communal thing. Akhilesh also trying to play it very carefully, but basically not very pleased with what has happened, considering this chap was in the Samajwadi Party as well. So, Suhel, Seth, have you caught that news? You've had quite a spiritual day today, but have you
I
seen that?
have always said, Advaita, to hell with human rights. The human rights of people who are killed are as important as the human rights of people who are killers. And if the killers are encountered with or diminished or decimated, I'm all for it. I'm tired of this nonsense. Oh, what about the human rights? Police is really acting harshly. What do you want people to do? Do you want the jungle Raj to continue? Do you want the nexus between politics and, everyone knows that this man was being sheltered by political patronage, by political people. Today, all these rascals are out in the open. They don't know where to hide. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that he got killed. I'll tell you why. Just now, one Bengal lady, member of parliament, waxing eloquent stupidly as always, saying, oh, but what about the constitution? What did Mamta Banerjee do
Oh,
when she disallowed FIRs against the Hindu killings post the elections, the state elections? One man's constitution is also another man's constitution. One man's family is also another man's family. You cannot have a situation where these people brazenly go around committing murders and then nothing happens because our judicial system is so screwed up. We have a terrible criminal justice system. And that criminal justice system has for long been vitiated because of the nexus between politics and the police. You have continuously, and in this country, we have constantly demotivated our police force. We have treated them like handmaidens. We have treated them like servants. Today, the police must be allowed a free run. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm glad this Assad joker is out of the way, because it will send many to be Assads a message that this is not the Uttar Pradesh of earlier. Mirzapur will now be on OTTs. It won't be in reality. People have to recognize that there are some people who will take the law into their own hands if need be in order to preserve the law and order situation. These are the same jokers, the Ayubs and all these other stupid people who abused KPS Gill. But didn't KPS Gill solve the Khalistan
yeah.
problem? What happened? What should he have done? Every terrorist he should have given him a rose and say, okay, please, now we'll see you in court. Bullshit. Look, let's get rid of the hypocrisy. Our justice system, until it is totally overhauled, until it is swift, and until it is a system that creates deterrence, let this be the modicum. And people are saying, oh, it's not an encounter, he was killed. ठीक है भाई, जो कर रहे कर लो. Go to a court of law. Say that he was killed. Say that this amounts to murder. Now let me tell you, here's the irony. Suppose you create this into a murder trial where the cops are accused of murder, that trial will also take 30 years. At least you've got rid of the menace. Today, the point, Advaita, is these people were running riot. They were running.
Absolutely.
There was no one who was willing to say something. And Yogi Adityanath is not exactly telling you that, look, I'm Gandhian in thought and belief, and that, I'm going to give you roses. If you slap me, I'll show you my other cheek. Bullshit. He's saying, you slap me, I will eliminate you. And he has warned these people. He said it in the state assembly when Akhilesh Yadav tried to, dimmer like gingerbread. And he told Akhilesh Yadav that you were the people who gave them patronage. So I'm saying I'm all for it. I have no remorse for these scoundrels. I have even lesser remorse for those radical, neoliberal, left liberal, hypocritical pseudos who say, oh, but what is going to happen to democracy? What is going to happen to human rights? अरे भाई ह्यूमन राइट्स भाड़ में जाए ह्यूमन राइट्स का आप क्या अचार बनाओगे यहाँ लोगों की जाने जा रही हैं यहाँ लोगों का दिन में कत्ल हो रहा है आप क्या करोगे और आप कौन से कचेरी में जाओगे there are murders happening. Can you imagine this scoundrel had the temerity to shoot a lawyer? I don't mind a lawyer getting shot. I mean, I do mind anyone getting shot. But he shoots a cop whose only business is to guard that lawyer, and that too brazenly in daylight. What do you want the state to come across as? Impotent? What do you want the state to come across as? Forgiving? Not at all. I'm done now. Get other people to speak.
Absolutely.
Very nice of you,
Yeah,
Suhel.
Sandeep, Dharma Dispatch. Quickly want to ask you, it's again become this whole thing of this Rana youth and gang. Again, it's become this thing of Muslim victimhood, etc., etc.
This is Perrier.
And there
yeah, for the uninitiated.
Come on, let's
hear you.
focus.
This woman has
Let's
a
stay
problem
focused.
with every solution.
Advaita, you have to repeat the question.
I said this usual gang is now
Usual gang
trying
is
to
Boss Sandeep,
See,
imagine the question. Her internet will always be screwed up.
Last
Imagine you heard a question.
respect.
Now you give any answer.
saying that
See, I told
this
you,
is happening because they're
every program her internet gets screwed. Every program. She's unable to pay her bills. We have to suffer, and the viewers have to suffer.
okay. Repeat that, Advaita.
She can't. She's frozen in time.
Oh God, she's frozen.
I'm telling you, this happens every time. These are the sites. Now people say, why do you get frustrated and angry? This is what we are encountering. No pun intended.
Can't we get her a Geo sponsorship?
I
Arey,
saw,
yes.
Sandeep,
I'm
the last
here.
one who's
Yes.
you're in the car.
I saw some
you're in
massive
car.
feedback going on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, about this show and things like that. But yeah, let's come back to the topic. Advaita, please indulge me once more. Don't freeze.
Yes, very quickly. I said the same gang is out saying this is Muslim, targeting Muslims. Rana Ayub, Owaisi, all of them have taken to the stage and their various platforms to make a big point about how this is a Muslim,
they know
person
that,
who
right?
has been killed in this. And
No, what's-
I mean, ignoring Vikas Dubey, ignoring the fact that this guy is dumb enough to challenge the police to a gun battle. So, I mean, what is the deal? Has logic completely escaped them, or is it just plain hatred for anything, and especially someone who is in saffron robes and is running the show in UP?
Yeah, that is very well true. But more fundamentally, this is par for the course, Advaita. It is a Ummah speaking. Good or bad, but mostly bad. We have to stick together. It's the whole thing, pride of the qawm, and that narrative, which is pretty familiar. We have mullahs openly saying all these, people all these Islamic clergymen who come on TV, they defend the indefensible. It is par for the course. It's been happening, for the last 50, 60 years. That's more than half a century. But anyway, look at the details of this case. This, whatever his name is, Atik, whatever, Asad, yeah. This Asad fellow, he was planning to actually, police got the intelligence that these fellows were planning to attack the police convoy. And they had all kinds of, world-class sophisticated weapons. The question is, how did they get those weapons? And how many thousands of them, if not lakhs of them, are lying around in various places? And if you remember about 10 or 12 years back, roughly around a time span, you had a huge front page headline about UP, about cops, teams of cops finding all kinds of dangerous and sophisticated weapons hidden in mosques and madrasas in UP. Remember that news? They launched a statewide raid on all these places. Now, all these religious places are supposed to be places where people go and worship. Why do you need this kind of a stockade of weapons there, Baba? So it is a
Absolutely.
this is how they procure it. Rather, how do they procure it? Who gives them this? These can't be obtained. Go try and get a gun license for yourself. All of us are law-abiding and tax-paying citizens, right? Go apply for a gun license, see what is the ordeal they will put you through. And these fellows are roaming around, with all sorts of imported weapons, some, world-class British-made revolver, some Swedish-made something, there's some Russian-made Sten guns and, things like that. So they were actually planning to attack a police convoy. What gives them the confidence and gumption to do this? And let's not forget that this fellow's father, Atik Ahmed, or whoever he is in jail on serious charges of kidnapping. CBI conducted a raid against his house a couple of years back, or maybe 3-4 years back. He's in jail, and this, Jaisa Baap Vaisa Beta types.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Precisely. So the Samajwadi angle comes into big play out here. That is a party which should get 100% credit for criminalizing and gangsterizing Uttar Pradesh politics in an unprecedented fashion. It was actually like, Mulayam and company were out-competing Lallu. That is a level of criminality. Why?
Each person needs the other.
What is that fellow's? Just 30 seconds, Suhel. So what was his USP to win elections? Yadav and Muslim vote bank, right? The same thing is happening in Karnataka. With the JDS, that is a combination, the Vokkaliga plus Muslim vote bank. And the same worrying signs are all over here. One terrorist organization based in Bangladesh, their members were caught by the cops, by the NIA in Ramnagaram, which is a site of which is where the sets of the
Guddی
was,
मुझे नींबू पानी पिला दो कि बर्फ डाल के खाली
it
नमक
was a very, very peaceful place. And
Now
now you
she's ordering her menu here on the program.
So
I mean, there must be some respect
I
for
have
this.
to mute her. I have to mute her. He's talking about radicalization and Pallavi Ghosh is ordering
have-
nimbu.
sorry I'm very tired
Yes, so
ये तो नींबू
I'm
बनाओ,
sorry,
सोडा
I'm
दो,
sorry.
ये वो.
whets your appetite. The radicalization whets their appetite.
no I have been campaigning.
so
I'm
these
very
people-
tired. It's very hot,
So
Oh, she's
Not
in
sitting in
campaign.
AC
Sorry.
We
I
see
don't
the
know who she
same
campaigns
things
for,
here.
Godo or some ghost, Banquo's ghost, because we don't see her do any genuine work.
No, that's
So-
the Indian Women's Press Club. But, she's gone now. So I'll go to our car panelist, the other Ghosh.
No, I'm back.
Oh, he's in the car now. How
I'm
come?
back.
All Ghosts and Ghoshes.
Sandeep is in the car and very weird. Is he driving or
Conversation
is he
for cars.
sitting? I don't know what is he doing. He's standing in
giving
a car.
He's giving us a view of the belly up. View. But someone else was belly up today in the fields near Jhansi. Sandeep, I want to ask you this. I think Dharma Dispatch brings up something very important, and that is the criminalization of UP politics. There's a meme or a little video doing the rounds where Atik Ahmed is endorsing Mulayam Singh Yadav's leadership and saying, but Akhilesh Yadav should be chief minister. So that's the kind of endorsement that is doing the rounds now. And you have someone like Yogi who comes in and says, to hell with all of this. We're not playing by these rules anymore, and I'm going to take you all out. One way or the other. You resist, you end up belly up in the fields. You go along and face justice, you'll end up in a jail. And more power to him.
See, all that had to be said has been said, and on both sides. And Rana Ayub has tweeted, and
She is the vilest of the lot. But Rana Ayub on every occasion, she spares no opportunity to tweet these kinds of vicious kind of things, which is
That is
beyond
only
the pale of
Poison.
human.
poison.
That's only
She's poison.
expected.
Completely.
Bitter,
Completely
poisonous woman. Cha.
Completely.
So she is the Sandeep. You expect her to do this. If she did something else, you'll be very suspicious. Why is she behaving like Advaita Kala? So you can't expect them to change places. So, or for that matter, Pallavi Ghosh.
You know,
So
some of our viewers say that you only come on the show to heckle and flirt with female panelists.
me,
Yes, you.
wha- how come?
That's true. That's true. That's what people say
How,
about you.
Yeah, that's the feedback about
We're
you.
having a serious discussion. This is your segue. Let him finish.
Let
so,
him stick to the
so
topic, no?
Yeah,
so
go on,
coming
Ghosh.
back.
Yeah, he dragged in Advaita's name, na Suhel. He dragged in my name. If it's a serious
Oh,
topic,
this is
you're not
okay.
going to
This
find
But
is
fault with him.
okay. This is a sorority sisters now,
yeah, absolutely.
sticking
Now,
with each other.
coming back, I think what's interesting in this, today we have a funny situation in the country that everybody else has got immunity, except if you belong to one party, one community. Media has immunity, business has immunity. No, anything you do, it becomes a matter of vendetta. Politicians have an immunity, and it's only one set of people, who are whatever they do is wrong. And knowing that, therefore, you will have this Rana Ayub kind of a backlash, or that kind of statements that Yogi has done this, I think is a very, very calculated and deliberate messaging. And that is what I think. What are the implications of that? We need to see, and doing so, in this kind of an environment, I think that is that going to change the polity of not just UP but some other places as well? Is something I think is worth analyzing here. Uh, that's where I come from. The criminalization of politics in UP has happened. It was given for the previous 30 years through all those Mandal, Kamandal, and thereafter the rest of it. It had become the normal there. Now, is that normal going to change this way? Already he had made a lot of difference, but are they? Will they be able to totally weed out this mafia gang, as you were saying, just like they did in Punjab? In terms of the terrorists. At one point in time, we forget Siddhartha Roy did the same thing in Bengal. Exact identical playbook of what KPS Gill followed later when Siddhartha Roy was also the governor of Punjab. So, that's the funny thing. If they did, if a Congress government or some other government did it at some point, Rana Ayub is not going to squeak. But today,
Yeah.
Today it all becomes human rights, all becomes, anti a certain community and the rest of it. I think that's where we need to separate and forget that, but look at the messaging. And this messaging, I'd be very surprised if it's from Yogi alone. It need not be from him. I think it has implications nationally. So I'm not too sure if he consulted people, but to some extent, he's speaking for a larger polity.
No, and he's definitely seeing the reception that this has been received with. Even in the law court, in the court premises, when this news came in, the lawyers who actually Umesh Pal is a lawyer, so that community has been very, very rattled by the killing, and they were extremely pleased that this chap was taken to task. And when he came in for his court appearance, he was greeted by abuses by the community of lawyers there. When he was leaving, they actually started trying to like throw slippers and things like that at him because I mean, there's a lot of anger on the ground against this chap and all that, and that's sort of the writ he's run for so long. But Pallavi, even like 5 years ago, it would have been hard to imagine an elected leader, a chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, taking on the mafia in the state in the way that Yogi has without apology. And it was almost like something accepted. As some of you know, I am also from UP, half and half. So you can see. I mean, so
Let's
I'm
stop that.
familiar
Let's
about the
stop that.
ganglands of UP. I'm
Stop.
familiar with
If
that.
it's
Yeah.
Thursday, it must be Uttar Pradesh. If it's Friday, it's Uttarakhand. If it's Saturday, Bengal. If it's Sunday, she's from Fiji. Let's get on with the topic.
But
And,
the
and
Kalas
finally,
came from
and
Maharashtra
finally,
originally.
you don't get it. She said, "I'm from Bollywood, so I know everything."
Bollywood.
Sandeep, I think you should just keep quiet. Someone has just called you flirty Ghosi.
I don't know. This seems to be some kind of conspiracy. I must ask
Hey,
Rana
let's
Yeah,
have a
yeah. Now you're
serious
sounding like
discussion.
Rana, are you?
No, let's have a serious discussion, mate. There
Acha,
are
theek hai,
people
Okay,
who are
I
Pallavi.
tell you
lost
what.
over it.
See, law and order, as we know, in UP has always been an issue. Barring a Mayawati time, because I remember when Yogi was not there, BJP was not there, and I live in Noida, and I remember many people around me would say, "Let's vote for Mayawati because the law and order is something which she can provide to us." Then things started going downhill. I think one of the worst phases was definitely during Akhilesh/Mulayam Singh Yadav. That's one thing as far as UP goes. I think the larger messaging, which certainly the Yogi government wants to send out, has sent out, is that we're going to crack the whip no matter what as far as the law and order situation is concerned. And it's not just restricted to UP, it is something which is going to have beyond UP impact. I mean, there are Karnataka elections where again Yogi Adityanath is going to be one of the star campaigners. He's been campaigning in many state elections. So with him, he carries that messaging that, if you are a BJP CM or a BJP leader, you are going to be coming down heavily on law and order. That's one. Second, I see that outrage on the social media, and encounter in Indian politics, encounter in India is always considered to be a very dirty word. It kind of, many people insinuate that it is accompanied by a conspiracy, it is targeted at one particular community, and so on and so forth. And I agree with Sandeep. It's not just it has happened during one particular time or during the BJP time. I think it's hamam mein sab nange hain. Almost every political party is guilty of it. And there are always going to be two points of view about what an encounter means. Was it deliberately done? How come it's done? But at the end of the day, I think we just need to go back to the people of that area. I mean, I just forget Umesh's family. I mean, there are people who live in and around the area. And why just UP? I mean, many of us who are from parts of Bengal, we will be very upset. I mean, we would talk about a left mafia. We now talk about TMC, Ghose, and so on and so forth, and in other states. And people who are peace loving, who want to live in peace, at one point of time, really don't care for these kind of big discussions, debates, or narratives on social media, because they are the ones, not you and me, but they are the ones who are living in that area, who are having to deal with lawlessness. So I'm sure that many of them who are actually feeling that what is happening is wrong and what happened was right in this case, because I do see a lot of people who are saying this on the social media. It should send out a message. It sends out a larger message beyond of UP or BJP or a particular community.
So, Hel, do you think we need to just ditch the political correctness on this one, because this guy is a hardened criminal. There was a reward on his head. He's had multiple cases against him. This Asad chap. He was on the run. He was planning to, take on the convoy. He was armed. He fired at the police, and like Sandeep was saying, this was no innocent little boy who was caught in the crossfire between the cops and his daddy. I mean, he definitely was a hardened criminal himself. So
So let me
anything
tell you
goes.
let me tell you what these jokers are saying. These so-called liberal idiots. They are very smart. Huh? They're not like you. Their whole perspective is that, look, this is what's happened. We know that this guy is a criminal. We know that he has murdered someone. It's in broad daylight. But who has the right in this country, when we are governed by a constitution, to take the law into their own hands? So they are doing two things. Number one, they are taking refuge under the constitution, which they themselves have violated 100 times. That same lady, member of parliament, her Didi, has messed up big time in Bengal, and she knows that. Second, and this is the more important point, the narrative that they are building, Advaita, is, as Pallavi also used the phrase, is that India is no longer run by law, it's run by jungle Raj, which means they want to again damage the so-called brand India's perspective qua democracy, saying that there's no, law and order here, it's jungle Raj. But let's look at the reality. As Indians, forget BJP, Congress, forget all these Johnnies. For years, the mafia and politicians were in bed with each other because it suited them. The mafia delivered the votes, they delivered the money, the politicians delivered protection and patronage. Here comes a man called Yogi Adityanath who says, look, I don't need the mafia for my votes. I will manage my politics through politics. I will not manage my politics through the, being beholden to the mafia. So what does he start doing? He says the mafia is my enemy because the mafia is also the enemy of the people.
Yes.
And since he's a representative of the people, he's obviously on the side of the people and not on the side of the mafia, which wasn't the case earlier. Earlier, the politician was on the side of the mafia. On our side, there was no one, not even these human rights activists or any of these other stupid idiots. Today, what has happened is this so-called neoliberal, left liberal, we don't know where the hell we are voice is now beginning to quiver. Because by logic, they cannot justify what has happened with the Atiks and Assads. They know that they are hardened criminals. Today, what are they saying? If you look at the narrative of these scoundrels, their narrative is Atik Ahmed's son killed. But that son is actually a criminal. Why should you say that? You should say Atik Ahmed's son, also a hardened criminal, killed. But they won't say that because the victimhood will lie in the fact that कि बाप के कठिनाइयों के लिए बेटे को मारा है.
Exactly.
There are two independent rascals who were running two independent mafiosi operations.
Yeah.
My point here is, Advaita, the problem is you cannot have these people run riot or go straight out and bat the way they're doing. Because they want you to say that, yes, we don't care about the law. Of course we care about the law. Now, you use the law to prove a point. If you believe the law has been violated in this so-called encounter, take them to court. That they won't do. It's the same thing with Rahul Gandhi. Once he got convicted, they started casting aspersions on the judge. But till the conviction, everything was hunky-dory. Now, you cannot have it both ways. Na? And I think it's time, because for me, it's not about Yogi Adityanath. It's about politicians learning only one thing as to where they stand. And they must only stand with the people, by the people, and for the people.
For the people. Very well said. Dharma Dispatch, Yogi is actually setting a new template. First was with the bulldozing, definitely controversial, and like Suhel rightly pointed out, giving a handle to the liberals kind of go on and on about the constitution. But the bottom line is that he on the ground is ensuring safety and security for people who actually felt very insecure. I mean, the kind of land grabbing these mafia dons do, it's one of their gentler things that they do. The way they usurp land, how they force people to sell to them. These things have gone on for decades. So there's actually people breathing a sigh of relief and saying, thank God. And if UP's reputation improves, then so many other things come with it. And it is the most populated state in the country. So this Yogi template, he's setting his own template. What do you make of it?
Yeah, before I answer that, just a couple of additions to something I had left midway. So, what about the criminalization of UP politics? We forgot, or rather, we no longer read headlines about ministers running their ministry sitting inside prison. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, that happened to a certain extent with Satyendra Jain. He had his portfolio forever.
Remember. And not just the bulldozing culture. In fact, eliminating this mafia scourge has been agenda number one, and it continues to remain agenda number one. Yogi ji. It started almost a month after he became CM. And all these, so-called Bahubalis and strongmen like Azam Khan, they've had their offices and all their ill-gotten wealth seized and their buildings razed. This is not a random thing, nor is it the latest. It is part of Yogi's, like I said, agenda. So, what do you mean? Yeah, and then to the point about Suhel's, narrative. Today I was reading on this encounter thing. Gangster turned politician's son killed.
What is a gangster?
Look at the way in which the media, one section of the media, all your usual suspects, look at the way they have normalized this. And these are the same media people who continue to be the loudest cheerleaders for Lalu, not so much Mulayam.
Yeah.
Remember who partied along with Lalu when he, kind of fought the Bihar election with Nitish? Remember the faces and names of those journalists, right? These are the enablers and the facilitators and the cheerleaders for this kind of. They did the same nonsense in UP. So what? Now coming to your point about Yogi's actions, the best way to characterize this, at least to my mind, is that what he's actually doing with all this can be compared only to drainage cleaning, garbage cleaning, as simple as that. So you don't need niceties and turning the other cheek and being soft and let the due process of law take. Really, these buggers have been using for 4-5 decades. Open criminals have been using the law as a shield for their criminality. So Yogi is simply, bulldozing them. I mean, do whatever it takes, yeah. And your point about that land grabbing, usurping, and all that, the same Atiq Ahmed, he is in jail precisely for the same reason. He kidnapped a Hindu businessman, forced him to surrender all his. That Hindu businessman was a real estate. He was in real estate business. So he forced him at gunpoint to hand over all his properties and his land deals to this fellow. That's how the CBI raided him and put him behind bars. Things like that. That's why he's in jail. So these are not innocent things. And remember that there was this Samajwadi Party minister. He had announced a reward of 51 crore rupees for anybody who chops off the heads of the Danish cartoonists. Remember that?
Yeah.
This is also UP. He won, a record number of times he's won elections on a Muslim constituencies or something like that. Some 3 or 4 times. So in his position as a sitting minister, he's issuing these threats. Uska sar kaat ke leke aao, main tumko 50 crore dunga.
Sandeep Ghosh
Reports it without any shame, without any commentary.
Yeah. Sandeep Ghosh, what Yogi is doing in UP is kind of resonates with what was happening in New York in the 90s. I remember when I first visited in the 90s, early 90s, it was too dangerous to take the subway. Now when you go, I mean, the subway anytime in the night till it runs, of course, is safe. And this has been something that Rudy Giuliani did.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, to know, or the Mafia in, say, Chicago. So this kind of cleanup requires somebody who has that determination, who is kind of deaf to this kind of, the kind of heckling that is going to take place, even when they're hardened criminals who are brought to justice. I think what he's doing is very significant and will be remembered for years and years and decades to come.
What you're going to also have, Advaita, is the ripple effect in the other states. See, if Yogi does this, he's setting an example for, say, a neighboring state like Bihar, where also law and order is deteriorating. And that will have a positive rub-off for BJP, that, okay, BJP government is willing to take on these things, and there will be, this whole question of control of law and order, I think you'll find becoming more of a BJP card going elsewhere. Even earlier, we saw how Madhya Pradesh people were trying to emulate the Yogi style, and some other places. So you'll see more of that happening. The usual suspects will dangerous thing. There'll be a lot of crime. You may have, apart from New York Times editorials and WAPO, you could even have a time cover or something coming. But that doesn't change. That's why I say this messaging is very deliberate, very calculated, and it's certainly not just Yogi's decision.
Yeah, I'll just add one point to this. The question we
Go
need
ahead.
to investigate deeper is what gives Yogi Adityanath this level of fearlessness? Complete, unapologetic action. It is because he was one of the youngest MPs to go into parliament. He was only 26 years when he first became an MP. So, in a way, he has seen things on the ground, he's experienced it, he has faced that fear head on, and in a way, he has trained himself, kept this goal in mind. And when the victory came for the first time in 2017 elections, it was time to act. This is a mark of a real leader or anybody in any field who works with singular focus on this goal. And then when the time comes, or the power or the position affords him to act to achieve that goal, he does it. This is what is Yogi.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing to you. I mean, this is going to be something that is going to be remarkable. The chatter, the noise, of course, right now is going to continue, and you will have that divisive commentary coming up, which completely ignores justice that has been meted out to people who are Hindus to make a communal point of it. But 10, 15, 20 years down the line, when UP is much safer and that safety is normalized in the way that the mafia presence was normalized, once that safety is normalized, business comes in, things get better. This is going to be considered one of his biggest contributions, I think.
So when that swine Amritpal went on the run, didn't people remember with great fondness KPS Gill and
Yeah.
how he had cleaned up the system? People remember Yogi in the same vein. Look, let me tell you, with forms of government, let fools contest. That which is governed best is best. The problem with us is we are too concerned with the forms of governance. And the forms of governance have straitjacketed India. They have straitjacketed honest politicians. They've allowed corrupt politicians to get away because they've taken advantage of the loopholes in the law. At times, the absence of law, and at times, ensuring the absence of law. But those
Suhel froze.
Finally, and not me. I want to put this on full frame so that everybody can see this frozen picture.
I'm
And the
saying,
next time he heckles me for
no,
freezing,
no, no, one minute. I'm saying
oh,
three things have happened in Uttar Pradesh today. Yogi
you froze.
Adityanath, Yogi Adityanath has shown the world that yes, you can govern without being in bed with someone or without having an axe to grind or without a next. He will be inspirational not for other politicians because those are inspirational for the police force. See, the police force in India has been decimated over the years. They have become recorders, they become handmaidens, they become, they have become people who do the bidding of their political masters.
They've become
Number
gardeners and
three,
carpenters.
number three, he has put the fear of God into prospective rascals who might want to take this path of violence. Because now there's no place to hide. You know the irony of India? Criminals hide under the purview of the judicial system, when actually it should be the judicial system that should make them feel miserable. Today they take. What did Arthik say? कि आपने मेरे को गुजरात से यहाँ क्यों बुलाया? Because today, as someone said, they are running their lives through prison. They are running everything through prison, so they don't really care. And I think Yogi sent out a very strong message as only Yogi can. And
Yeah.
look, I haven't met Yogi Adityanath. I don't know if I'll ever meet the guy, but I can tell you, the people I meet outside Uttar Pradesh, who may be from Uttar Pradesh or who work there, they've all told me कि जो भी आप कहो, घर शांत से जा सकते हैं, रात तक बाहर रह सकते हैं, and there is no law and order problem. Now, some jokers will make this into communal, some will make it divisive. Let them. Of the 10 or 12 people I spoke to, 3 people are Muslims.
Yeah.
Don't Muslims also value their lives? Don't they
Of
value the
course.
lives of their children? So this
You know,
nonsensical attitude by the Ayubs of the world to say, oh, communal and it's minority, targeted. It's all bullshit. It's utter
It's
rubbish.
It's absolute BS. In fact, this Dubey chap is from the same community that I'm from, like partly from in.
Oh, now again, everything
No,
boils down to you.
listen, wait. Suhel, listen. And there was this whole thing that this is anti this caste and this and that and the other. But in my family group, which is over 60 people, the extended family group, everybody was, fine with the fact that he had been taken out. So this is this, these kind of so-called spokespersons who go up there and try and make communal issues or casteist issues of things. No caste, no community, no religion wants to take a communal or a criminal as a representative of their community. For heaven's sake, whether you're a Brahmin or a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever you are. So it's ridiculous that these people think they can get away with this nonsense. Sandeep, I want to really ask you about the Nath Sampradaya. I think that's also very significant in terms of, the way his thinking is shaped, Chief Minister Yogi's.
Which Sandeep, me or him?
You, Dharma Dispatch, Nath Sampradaya, you know.
No, I mean, it has little to do with Nath Sampradaya and more to do with his understanding of governance, statecraft, law and order at a very, very fundamental level, at a very rooted level. Just to give an example, a very, very common sense kind of a example. What is the function of a ruler? Primary function. Primary function of a ruler is दुष्टों को शिक्षा दे दो और सज्जनों को रक्षण दे दो. That's all. So it has little to do with Nath Sampradaya, or any other sect that he belongs to. It has little to do with that, and more to do actually with, if I can say that, with, I mean, it's arguable, but I'll still make the point about the inheritance of the mutt that he heads in Gorakhpur. That has a stellar record of safeguarding Hindu interests for hundreds of years, and that mutt has maintained that, and Yogi Adityanath is kind of keeping that tradition intact. It is only incidental that he became a chief minister.
Yeah.
These are arguable points, but if you go and dive deep into the history of that mutt in Gorakhpur, remember that Yogi Adityanath's guru, the former Pithadipati, so he played a very, very instrumental and a very enormously significant role in guiding the Ayodhya movement. Correct. He was one of the central figures of that whole episode.
Even the defense of Kashi Vishwanath during the Mughal era, the Nath Sampradaya played an active role. They fought battles, and they have a very long history when it comes to the defense of Sanatan Dharma. But really, I want to.
I'll just finish my point, just 10 seconds. This in turn has its origins in something called the Akhadas.
Yes.
Which was first started by Madhusudana Saraswati, sometime in the 15th or 16th century. So that is when Madhusudana Saraswati was a Swamiji he was a sannyasi basically, who followed the Advaita philosophy. So he started all these akhadas. Akhadas not as in gymnasiums, but yes, gymnasiums were also part of the whole system.
The wrestling and everything, fitness, wrestling, all of that.
But this was his vision was that under prolonged Muslim tyranny, where you have no king to protect Hindu interests, you have to self-organize. And how do you do it? With a very, very beautiful mix and a very highly effective mix of what is known as Brahma and Kshatriya, meaning spirituality and defense or martial power. So that is why he started these akhadas throughout UP, and Nath Sampradaya also intersects with these things in many different points. So
in fact, even Dr. Hedgewar, the founder of the RSS, was a wrestler. In a lot of the ideas for the Shakha came from the thought process that physical fitness as well as
Mini Cooper
meeting is very important. Pallavi
Swami,
Ghosh has gone to fight an election, but I want to go to Sandeep Ghosh.
yeah.
Sandeep, let's get in the business perspective and law and order. What was the reputation that UP had? I know it had a terrible reputation. Business people were scared to invest in the state. But now, when you see these headlines and you see the kind of focus that there is on law and order, what has changed in your view in the conversations that you have with people in the business
You
world?
see, you see, that's what I was just thinking about. I think there are 2 points about Yogi, and I'll just take a continuity from what you were saying, talking earlier with other Sandeep. And I think you had mentioned this. Yogi's one of his strength is he can just say that I'll lift my bags and go back to Gorakhpur if you don't let me do that. So he doesn't
Exactly.
really have a problem. He's not really worried about what is the answerability he has to the so-called high command, etc. He follows his own rules, and for him, Yogi, in 4 years,
Your
time
voice
for
is
him to
breaking.
deliver.
Your voice is breaking,
Hello.
so I'm going to take it.
So
You're back. Yeah, you're back
hello.
now.
So
You're
he sees these 4 years as his opportunity to deliver, the window of opportunity to deliver, and he would like to do that, and for which law and order is a very very key element. And let me tell you something, Advaita, which may make appear counterintuitive, or this message will not only go to one community we are talking about. There are various elements within other political parties, and who are, who also did the strong arm tactics. They had the muscle men and everything, and we know some of the names. Even for them, this message will go. If somebody thinks that if I do not belong to that community, I have immunity. That's not. Yogi will make sure that. So I expect a lot of other pockets where I can't specifically name them. I do know of places where there were these strong men operating. They still try to arm twist businessmen and everything for a variety of things. I expect them to also be reined in.
Well, thanks so much. And as far as inviting former DG P, I asked Vikram ji. He's traveling today by car on the road, so he couldn't join us. But I hope to have him there sometime. He's a great reservoir of stories. In fact, during his time, one story that Vikram ji told me was about going to the CM's residence and a criminal who had been chasing. He had been invited for tea, jumping out of the window in the back and running away, and him actually spotting him. So that just tells you
The-
what kind of nexus exists.
Vikram Sood,
since you
Vikram
seem
Sood,
to have some time left, I'll give you another anecdote, a real anecdote about business. And the company I used to work for had set up a factory in the most remote Bundelkhand area in a place called Orai. And you'd be
Mhm.
surprised, Orai does have a club from the British time. So he was the first factory manager, my friend Harsh Chopra. And he said the first thing, he said, I could get a membership of the club, not knowing what the club. And he went to the district magistrate and said, can you get me a membership of Orai club? So district magistrate told him, no problem, give me about 3 months. He said, what the heck? Here is Orai. I'm the factory manager of the only factory and the largest factory. You're saying 3 months. He said, no, membership I can get you tomorrow. But your gun license will take 3 months. And without a gun, you cannot go into that club. So that was really UP and industry when you're talking about. So that
no, no, this was also Bengal. This was also Bengal at the height of the communist rule.
they wouldn't go to the clubs. This is Orai club, which still exists.
Just to draw a parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious in a very tragic way, but this was the reality. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to forget about that and sit from afar and pass judgment. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And do go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Do share this conversation with people who you think will be interested in it. And we shall be back soon. Suhel said, do you want to say anything before we leave?
No, I just think that this is a new India. And if we want this new India to be equitable, to be just, to be fair, we have to eliminate people who are constantly dividing, constantly driving a wedge within our society, most of the time using violence as their weapon, no pun intended. And we need politicians like Yogi Adityanath to say, that the politics of the past have to be replaced by the future of the people. You know, the people have to be at the heart of everything that you do. And I think Yogi has finally said, look, let me tell you, it's not very important what Rana Ayub and all those other jokers say. What is important is what is the common man saying?
Yeah.
Common man stands relieved.
Point.
That's the point.
Point.
And I hope and pray that other people also follow suit. Because let me tell you, when they're in bed with a mafiosi, nothing happens. They don't either they don't earn the respect either of the people or of their colleagues. At least here, Yogi's earned the respect of his people.
People. Yeah.
Whether his peers respect him or not, that's another matter. But that he couldn't be bothered. It's the people who will elect him, not his peers.
So
Whether,
true. And
whether
so
they vote for them or not, the respect that Yogi commands is real
Is huge.
Yes.
and tangible. And the other final point I want to make is that, you know, people, we are hardwired as a species. We are hardwired to respect strength, which is what Yogi symbolizes.
Yeah, very true.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, huh, Advaita?
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. I'm really inspired, and I think I also need to be tough on the Sunday club, so to get respect. And you'll see more of that, folks, in the next edition of the club. But for now, thank you. Bye bye. Do like, share, subscribe, and we shall catch up with you very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye.